I know I'm going to get raked over the coals for this, but at this point, I really don't care. What we're seeing right now unfold in the United States is controlled kabuki theater. I've been watching for the last 2 days coverage of the oversight hearings revolving around one now former Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, or as I like to call her, Cheadlejuice, or Cheat Hole, or Cheadledee and Cheadledum. And by the way, using any of these phrases will get your comments insta-banned on YouTube in real time. Just go try this out on the Googleverse and see if your comment even makes it past post. Man, these algorithms, this AI stuff is getting so fast now. Pretty soon they're going to be able to delete your posts before you can formulate them in your brain. All of this is happening at breakneck speed now. First we had the Trump rally incident on the 13th. Then Biden allegedly comes down with the coof and then withdraws from the race via a letter posted to X, formerly known as Twitter. A letter which states that Biden is dropping out of the race. He's dropped out via social media. And according to his White House aides, that's the first time... Wow, White House aides. What's in the name? That's the first time they heard of it. It was when they saw it on social media. And his signature looks different, and I guess the letterhead, according to some interweb sources here, the letterhead's different from official White House correspondence or stationery. But the media has made it official, so I guess we just gotta go with it. Prior to all of this unraveling or unfolding, depending on your viewpoint, I suppose, the debate debacle between Trump and Biden, in which Biden had multiple brain farts, and suddenly, out of nowhere, the media does a 180 on this guy. Now they're all on board with the Dementia Joe narrative. Yep, he's gotta go. Senile Joe has gotta go. Biden didn't suddenly come down with an acute case of old-timers. Anyone who's been watching with even a slouching interest the political coverage of our resident in office knows that Senile Joe is the one we've had from the very beginning of this administration. And this isn't even the worst aspect of his presidency. The man is obviously up to his eyeballs in corruption, from weird sexual perversions detailed in his daughter's book, to Hunter Biden's laptop, extortion of the Ukrainian government to drop investigations involving his son's own business partners. If tables were reversed, Trump would be in a prison so hard they'd have to pump air and sunshine into his cell. He is without a doubt the single worst POTUS we've had in generations. Nixon was forced to retire for far less. But I am not about to board the Trump train either. There were at least some highlights along the orange man's first term in office: a healthier economy, less foreign conflict than usual, and the comedic blasting of the propane-infused media. But this is where the good times ceased to roll. He promised to lock her up, Mrs. Clinton. But once in office, he proceeded to kiss her backside and did a 180 on that pursuit, claiming he didn't want to be perceived as weaponizing the judicial system against his political opponents. For all the good that did in the end. The Democrats have never balked from using lawfare, as recent history has indicated to us. Neither have the Republicans, for that matter, when it really matters to them. When it really does. The point was not to go after your political enemies, Mr. Trump, but to rout out criminal elements from the body politic, and by failing to do so, you left the front door wide open for the exact kind of malfeasance that caused you to lose the election in 2020, and is very likely to swipe it from you again in 24. And let's not even get into the coof that shall not be named, and that Operation Warp Speed, which the Trumpster is so very, 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 very proud of. The best vaccine ever. I'm gonna have to bleep out so many words on this one. My apologies, folks. It's the Google Gremlins. Must be advertiser friendly. He was so proud of it, he kept talking about it even after getting booed at multiple rallies after bringing it up. Read the room, dude. To be fair, I realized that not all of Trump's shortcomings were his own doing. Congress fought him tooth and nail to ensure that very little of his policy promises, like closing the border, could actually be fulfilled. And that is one of the many reasons why I do not think voting the Dorito back in will have the desired effect. At best, we're going to get a repeat of 2016 to 2020, hopefully this time without a global health scare. And I suppose that it might not be so bad if that's the case, especially when you consider the Democratic alternatives. Will it be Biden or Harris? Well, I guess Biden got crossed out. Newsom? Michelle? I've even heard Mrs. Clinton may rise from her lair to try again. That's the other thing behind this circus, is we're still not entirely sure whether or not Harris is now the official presidential frontrunner for the Democratic Party. I don't know about you folks, but sequels get old after a fashion, and I am not enamored with watching season whatever of American politics. The writers suck, the actors are phoning in their performances, and the budget is way overblown. Less than a week ago from today, there was I gotta play word games for the Gremlins, attempted long-range deletion at a Trump rally in PA. A 20-year-old sped with the last name Crooks managed to pop off a few in the general direction of the would-be POTUS and missed. Thankfully, well, one of the shots grazed his ear, and thankfully, again, it did not succeed. Others in the crowd were not so lucky, such as one Corey Compertor, and several others. Insofar as I can sift on the interwebs, they're still in critical condition or otherwise in the hospital. To clarify, I don't wish deletion on anyone, no matter how far apart we may be on political issues or other issues. Also, I'm glad it didn't happen, because if it did, I am 100% certain that we would be in martial law right foxtrot now. Every time one of these high-profile incidents happen, it's like a narrative that came straight out of Hollywood. Why is the only photo of this guy floating around from when he was like 15? So, a 20-year-old man-child with zero social media footprint in this day and age somehow acquires a rifle, boom booms, high-tech gear, 3 encrypted bank accounts, and a vehicle. Drives to a political rally with arguably the single most famous man in America in attendance, or infamous, rolls a natural 20 on multiple stealth checks and makes it past the most highly trained, technologically advanced government bodyguard unit in the world, perches up on an industrial building, the AGR building, somehow not alerting the Secret Service or the ESU unit, which is right freaking there, looking right down at him, at any point prior to bang. Only he does get spotted minutes before firing by police, civilians, and the U.S. Secret Service. But no one does a damn thing with the information, at least no one of authority, then makes multiple long-range hole punches towards Donald Trump. Finally, Crooks is taken out by the counter-snipers. Wow. When's season 5 coming out? Is this on Netflix or Hulu? Asking for a friend, bro. Just asking for a friend. A staged incident, or many of the other gulag gremlin-inducing terms that are used on the interwebs, does not mean that no one was deleted. It simply means that a thing was planned in advance, likely by more than one person. What is the struggle of the modern-day millennial? Most 20-somethings today, they're having a hard enough time of it just trying to pay for the roof over their head and food in the belly, let alone have access to the kind of resources that we are ostensibly led to believe crooks had access to. Which is more likely, a complete failure of law enforcement, the United States Secret Service, and countless other administrative agencies at every level, or that the would-be liquidator had help, LIHOP, or maybe MyHop. My money's on make it happen on purpose, was the thing going on here. And I'd also like to point out for the naysayers on social media that had the R and the D been reversed in this situation, that is, Biden was in the catbird seat at that rally, every alternative right commentator under the sun would be looking for a foxtrot, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying we live in an age of misinformation. Skepticism is warranted. Before the metaphorical ink could even dry on this article, Joe Biden officially dropped out. I got a question. Do the Democratic donors get a refund? You are quite literally changing horses midstream on this. And now I'm hearing that delegates are throwing their support behind Kamala Harris. Excuse me? You don't get to do that. If I invest my money in Raytheon and Raytheon goes under, they can't just go and put my money into Boeing or Lockheed. In any other business practice or otherwise in this country, that would be considered illegal, fraud, theft, something. Now, why should I have sympathy for the devil on this? Because Democrats are Americans. Independents are Americans. Republicans are Americans. We're supposed to have a rule of law in this country, checks and balances. And when people go and throw their political support behind candidate A or B, they should not have their will subverted by arbitrary processes. Now, don't get me wrong on this. I had zero desire to see another 4 years on the back of the lame Joe Biden, and his giddy-up was broke back a long time ago. I cannot believe the zero agency, no logic using people out there. I think the lockdowns really broke people's cognitive function. Terminal levels of misinformation is floating out of people's mouths. It's freaking scary. Less than a week after another weird thing is at the press hearing between law enforcement on the alleged Trump assassination. We're going to call it alleged. I don't know if he did his WWF thing where he cut himself on the ear with a razor when he went down or not. But I think it would be safe to make the assumption that you hear bang and President got bleedy thing on face, that he probably got shot, and that warrants an investigation. I don't know. If you see red light over the hill and smoke, there's probably a fire there, and we have at least those two elements. Now, whether or not this thing was staged, I don't know. My money is on that it was staged, but I couldn't tell you by whom. I couldn't tell you by what reason exactly that stage took place. But I'm telling you, my opinion on this, it was definitely staged. And there's reports that came out of a possible second long-range deleter. And here's a question that I have for law enforcement and the U.S. Secret Service and any other administrative agencies that might have been present on that site on that day. I would like to see a register of all firearms for all agents in the field and what the condition of those firearms were when they were returned. How many rounds did they have left? Was there gunpowder in their barrels? How many officers or agents or federal employees or state employees discharged their long-range hole punchers? And why? There needs to be an accounting, because according to the local PD, there was an ESU unit staged in the building that had overwatch over the AGR building, which means that they were in a position to stop him, or at least see and investigate. And apparently, according to sources that I'm hearing from, that's what they did. They got out of their post and went to search around the building that Thomas Matthew Crooks was spotted on. Why would they both leave their post? Why not radio it in, or have one guy go down, or contact one of the myriad agencies that were on site at that time? No one else could have done that investigation? You had to remove your sniper overwatch from that building? That doesn't make sense. None of this makes any sense. Another pertinent piece of information that I think the American folks need to get their hands on is any and all body camera footage that was available from that event. You know, Mrs. Cheetlejuice got on the microphone at her hearing and said that they did not have radio recordings for the Secret Service for July 13th. What? Isn't that convenient? Oh, we've got texts and emails. Texts and emails can be altered very easily. So can audio these days, but it's a little harder. Everything about this incident stinks. This is reality television. Reality TV politics. Speaking of the Real Housewives of the White House, I imagine Joe Biden is throwing a temper tantrum right now because she doesn't get to fly on Air Force One next year. Another coincidence of history is that the First Lady, Jill Biden, was hosting another event nearby in PA at the same time. Isn't that something? What a coinkydink. We have a saying in Moscow, Mr. Bond. Once is coincidence, twice is happenstance. The third time is enemy action. In any crime, you look for means, motive, and opportunity. Who in the soup of available actors at the Pennsylvania rally had those three qualities? A whole lot of people. There needs to be a third-party investigative body brought in for this mess, because I do not trust the FBI, and neither should the American people. Mrs. Cheathole, multiple times, deferred to the FBI instead of answering questions like, how many bullets were fired? How many casings were found on the roof next to the body of Mr. Crooks? Were there any casings found on the ground? You know, maybe they rolled off that deadly sloped roof. What a joke. We couldn't put agents up on a sloped roof. That's not a thing that special agents with, hardened military backgrounds and tactical training could handle. Never mind the fact that one of the CS units was stationed on a sloped roof with a higher pitch than that one. Instead, they put a CS unit inside the AGR building. Well, an ESU, the Emergency Services Unit of the local PD. That's the other thing. We just can't get a straight story on the narrative. It's got to keep evolving over time. This is Las Vegas all over again. This is Uvalde all over again. This is Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School all over again. Mr. Crooks looks like he could be a cousin to Nicholas Cruz. They always have 3 names. You ever notice that? With the last name of Crooks. You really can't make this shit up. I almost think that the reason why we started hearing about the alleged Iranian threat to the former POTUS was because somehow, some way, the Trump campaign floated or leaked that information themselves in order to try and bolster their own security detail prior to the rally. I guess that would be considered a positive conspiracy theory. I don't know how you would look at that if that did turn out to be the case, and I don't claim to have any proof that that is the case. But if it was, that was probably the only legitimate way they could go about forcing the U.S. Secret Service's hand in bolstering their detail, for all the good it did in the end, which didn't seem to amount to much. Because it just seemed bogus. There's no corroborating information. There's no follow-up to it. It's just the media yapping about it. Yap, 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 Iran. Maybe that was what they were going to do with this situation. Pin this thing on Iran, and something went wrong. Some kind of hitch fell off. Maybe that kid wasn't supposed to get pegged. He was supposed to escape. I don't know. That's not how it played out. Earlier, I was seeing stuff that was posted on 4chan, allegedly by one of the members of the CS team for the Secret Service, stating that he had the perpetrator in his crosshairs and was asking for permission to open fire and was denied. But when Crooks actually opened up on the Trumpster, he immediately engaged him. And if that's true, that's probably the only reason that our former president is still breathing right now. Kind of wish he had jumped in a little sooner. And I'm sure Mr. Trump does as well. On the other hand, if he'd done that, then Mrs. Cheatler would probably still be the acting U.S. Secret Service director. So, silver lining to every cloud, I guess. I have been trying to jump on top of this issue ever since it transpired. It's just been crazy here over on my end. Every time I get ready to publish this episode, something new happens and I have to keep tagging on new information to it to keep it relevant. By the time I publish it this evening, probably 5 or 6 new things that's going to need to be added, but it just is what it is at this point. It really does feel like somebody somewhere or some group of folks have this country on a collision course of accelerationism. Accelerationism speeding this country's demise along. We're gonna find out. One of the congresswomen in that hearing with Mrs. Cheatler did bring up an interesting question. Who do I need to speak to at the FBI? The American people would like to know. At today's hearing, they were conspicuously absent. I wonder why that is. Along with the other alphabet soup agencies that should have freaking been there, but they weren't. Why? And the fact that the former Secret Service director had requested 60 days to provide her full report. 60 days! She must have got the same lawyers that Moderna and Sophie GSK and Pfizer had for their magic sauce they wanted to pump into everybody. And we got to see all the old fuddy-duddies come out at the RNC, like Hulk Hogan, couldn't even rip his t-shirt, and Trump's reappearance, which looked like it looked like a WWF match intro. I really don't know what to think about any of this anymore. Every election cycle, we get to pick between 2 different turds, and if you're not behind the Democrat candidate, you gotta be behind the Republican one, or you're vilified by one side, or in my case, both, because I think both options stink. But that's what we have to choose from, and I have to admit, as much as I have disdain for Donald Trump, will be better suited to have him in the presidency than any of the other alternatives, save for maybe RFK, but he just doesn't have the numbers to actually pull it off. I guess we'll see. The J.D. Vance appointment, really not feeling that at all. The guy flipped the script on Trump a while ago, called him literally the Austrian painter that liked to bake things, if you can read between the lines, and his best buddies with the CEO and founder of Palantir, Peter Thiel, a hardcore defense contractor guy, way in bed with the deep state and the alphabet soup agencies. And Mr. Thiel has had his hand up J.D. Vance's backside for so long that it's probably grown roots. So it looks like Trump is well on his way to filling his cabinet with deep state water moccasins and crocodiles all over again before he even gets his foot in the Oval Office. Now, how am I supposed to put my faith in the Republican ticket when he's making all of the same mistakes all over again? They need to make an option on the ballot. You know, you get Party A, Democrat, Party B, Republican, or flip them, I don't know. And then you've got your independent guy in this case, and then you've got none of the above. In other words, we need to recast the primaries, and maybe the American people actually get to throw their voice into it for once. Maybe instead of having these super PACs and PACs throw billions of dollars at potential candidates and whoever gets the most money wins, maybe we take that political corporate element out of it and let the people decide for a change who they want their candidate to be, because it shouldn't be any of these guys. We're just going to keep getting the same crap that we've been getting. It's going to keep getting worse. What about Thomas Massey? You're talking about ending the Fed. Throw your hat in the ring, dude. You're the only one talking about this issue, and it's the most important thing in our generation. I guess we gotta wait until America's $60 trillion in debt, or $40 quadrillion in debt. And then we can talk about how bad it is, right? When the dollar is worth 1/1000th of a penny, you might as well make debit cards out of paper and disposable, one use. Swipe, that's it. No, all your money's gone. Here's your package of tiny hot dogs. How about we just run elections like a public service? All the candidates that want to sign up get to sign up. They all pull resources for media coverage from the same bucket. They get the exact same amount. It's divided up evenly amongst all the candidates. And then all of the news outlets have to distribute their material. And that's it. No super PACs, no corporate finagling. I mean, corporations can still donate up to the set limit, but it gets divided evenly amongst all of the potential candidates. And that goes for the primary and for the final election process. And that's it. And any money that's not used goes towards paying down the national debt or gets refunded to the donators. And then we could finally end this crap. And how about debates? How about actual debates like they used to do in the olden days, where you could actually formulate a complete thought without the time running out? Mr. So-and-so, you have 2 minutes to respond. Are you kidding me? You're running for the most important office in this country. You have 2 minutes to respond. Are we going to start holding debates on TikTok next? Might as well.